Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm very happy to be here with you today to co-chair this panel on the financing of collective sustainable economy at this forum. I am Denise Ndour. I'm the General Administrator of the Sen'Finances Foundation, foundation that works for financial inclusion of population, member of the scientific committee for the organization of this forum. I'm a member of the consultative GSEF and member of which is the International Association for Investors, a network belonging to GSEF, and which was given the responsibility to build all the forum program around financing. And we have seen through the exchanges that we had so far that the issue of financing is a critical one that is referred to regularly. I am honored to co-chair this panel with Mr. Lesaffre, who is just behind me. Mr. Lesaffre has 40 years experience in the monitoring and evaluation. He's been general director of CD, International Solidarity for Development and Investment. It's an social investment fund based in France. He had to promote FEDEA on all the issues related to SSC. And Mr. Fabre is also a member of the Board of Administration, which is the European Ethical Banks, and he is also a member of the Strategic Committee of FIF, the Confederation of Financial Institutions in Western Africa. Mr. Lesaffre is also member of the Board of Administration and former president of DUNEV, and member of the consultative committee of the GSEF. I can continue. He has got so many other titles. I'm going now to give the floor to Mr. Lesaffre, who is going to set the stage for the topic that we are going to discuss on this panel. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ndour. Before we would like to thank Madame Ndour for all the work she has done as chairperson of the INAISE network on this important topic about financing for the preparation of all these approach on financing. It was a refined and deeply conducted work. I would also like to very briefly, but with emphasis, express my admiration and my emotion to the participation to this historical event. The organization of this World Forum on Social and Solidarity Economy in Africa for the first time is naturally here in Dakar, which has been for decades the capital and the laboratory for SSC rooted on its territory. We have had exemplification, a lot of testimonials from the beginning of the session to now, with the commitment of its population, territorial collectivities, and the public administration. What we heard from the previous panel was a vibrant testimonial about that. Since the beginning of this week, the two pre-forums, the youth, the women, have worked through their emphatic testimonials, talked about the stake of the financing of SSC that this is a major concern. Some questions were asked to the panel on governance this morning. It's a recurrent challenge, in particular when it comes to trying to solve the issue raised by the forum on how to transition from the informal economy to a solidarity economy on the territories. And with the members of this panel which were selected, we will try to bring some answers at a time when SAC is becoming important in Africa with the organization of this forum. Let me remind that SAC helps to create sustainable value economically, socially, culturally, and environmentally. It is about values to create, values to experience in daily life with all the concerned actors. As people involved in politics talked about this morning, to be efficient and relevant, financing should also be rooted on those values of the SAC. Our panelists are going to indicate and remind us a certain number of convictions regarding that. I am pleased to introduce the panel, which we wanted to be diversified and representative. First of all, Mr. Mathieu Soglonou, who is the director of the Financial Confederation. Mathieu himself represents more than 8 million members in the West African region through the social presence of the organizations. I'm also happy to introduce Mohamed Attanda, who is the executive director of the Microfinance African Institution Network, Maine, who's been for almost 20 years untiringly working on capacity building of the proximity financial institutions. And the Maine network is a strength in Africa today. I would also like to introduce Pape Amadou Sarr, who is the executive director in charge of communication at the French Development Agency, and Mr. Rachid Sam, who is a program coordinator at the Islamic Development Bank, and last but not least, Mr. Milde Vegas, who is the executive director of FEBEA from the beautiful province of Quebec, and who presides over Cap Finance Quebec. As you can see, it's a very rich panel on a very important topic. And as Madame Ndour has said, we are going to start. Mr. Attanda. What's the member profile of your association? And what is the mission of your association? And what is briefly your mission before them in reinforcing the financing of SAC? And this question is almost addressed to all my friend panelists. Over to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lesaffre. Thanks to the organizers of this forum. I'm pleased to talk about the main network and to talk about the decentralized financial system entities or members of this network. The main is a Pan-African network created about 30 years ago with the mission of reinforcing proximity institutions that we call decentralized financial institutions or microfinance institutions. The members of the network represent financing institutions which are at the heart of their mission or their activities in terms of solidarity. And to that purpose, Maine is represented in 24 countries with 124 members, and the main members touch the beneficiaries, 14 million beneficiaries. And the mission of the network is to reinforce institutional capacity of the member for them to deliver the services, proximity services to the population that we call marginalized or vulnerable population. This is what I can say as an introduction. Thanks, Mr. Attanda. Soglonou, Mr. Soglonou. Thank you very much, Mr. Lesaffre. I would like to thank the organizers of the forum, and thanks to the city of Dakar, where I have lived for 10 years. I represent the Financial Institution Confederation in West Africa, an institution created to help regional integration through contributions to from cooperatives and savings institutions. We have about 165 cooperatives in West Africa with 8,100,000 customers, 1 billion savings mobilized, and it is also an institution that can support solidarity with the creation of insurance companies to organize solidarity, and in terms of financial to refinance the microfinance system that's for the largest community. Yes.
Our first panel members have talked about the institutionality which has been created for many years, which is strengthened in Africa. And through their respective experiences, these are approaches that have been conclusive. And in my opinion, they will be the strength, social strength of future solutions which will be identified by GSEF and around GSEF convictions or around the finance your institution doing, and how do you see the issue, which resonance with regard to the issue. Thank you. I wish to commend Senegal for hosting this summit for the first time in Africa. I wish to thank the moderators and the panel members for inviting the African Development Bank. My name is Rachid. I'm responsible for operation for the Islamic Development Bank in Senegal and Mali. The Islamic Bank is a multilateral development institution with a specificity South-South cooperation. We have 57 member countries, and our mission is to provide tools to populations in order to promote and boost their economic and social development. We have as core values solidarity, social and economic development, and this is the reason why we are here today. This forum is really interesting for us because by supporting our countries in development, we act at the population level and we strengthen values of solidarity, equity through Islamic finance. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sam, Mr. Sarr, you're also representing a remarkable institution which is well known in the financial sector. What would you say on this SSE issue and the approach? So the approach you may promote. I'm the executive director responsible for mobilization, partnership and communication of the French Development Agency, which has three areas. Microphone. Today, AFD is over 12 million of investment with 50% in Africa, and solidarity economy is one of the financing pillar, and we have 60 billion euro in our portfolio on SME financing, social entrepreneurs. We support also, as part of Morocco, the implementation of a roadmap on economic and social. We say that it's 3 times bigger than France. If we compare to Senegal, it's 9 times bigger than Senegal. But in terms of population, we are just over 8 million inhabitants. 8 million people speak French. And this gives a color to our work. Now, 8 million with 300 million people talking French. Now, on the question per se, I'm representing CIF-AO. It's a network of organizations active in financing its social economy. It is made up by 9 organizations. This activity, GSEF, is so important that even in the room, we have 4 of its members that are represented. I can name the Director General of Micro Entrepreneur, the General Director of Doris, people from Philaction, and the Director of Strategy and Development of the Caisse d'Économie Solidaire, Mr. Martin. Also, I wish to say, before getting to the nitty-gritty, thank you, Madame Ndour, for being here. So finance, yeah. So please get to the point. On the 9 members that we have, CIF-AO, we have $26 million. The 3/4 of the money in CIF-AO network are managed by women, and I wanted to highlight that. On this topic, you have received the program, the agenda. Some other people were planned, but for women's testimonies, Madame Ndour will probably recall that actors that have been successful to ensure the financing of socio-economic and financial inclusion are women, and we know that. Now, to finish, to answer the question, maybe we can, as someone said, the work that members of CIF-AO is doing is not to make a project bankable. Through the amount I mentioned, even if we are 9 organizations, we are in a position to cover all the needs at the level of social economy organization, from the startup to the growth, expansion, which may cover 2 million. Obviously, this is a Quebec's reality, a reality in Quebec, a North American reality. But I'm aware that this is not the same elsewhere. But this is, I'm not gonna complain about some sectors that are not equipped or financed, but overall we have a big power, a big financial power to cover the needs of many social economy businesses. Thank you for underlining that in your wonderful territory you have articulated the complete institutionality which actually tackles all issues relating to financing of SSE. So this is an experience to share. In other territories where the passage from formality to financing of territorial collectivity and SSE, it's true that Quebec is a reference which can be replicated. Mrs. Ndour, over to you. Thank you for those answers, quite relevant. We're going to try and manage time. So we had a number of questions, but we'll try and be as brief as possible. I have a question on the strategy, the modus operandi of your various institutions, and particularly today, what are the assets of your respective institutions to finance collective and sustainable economies in territories? So what are the bottlenecks you are encountering? So I'm going to use the same order of passage. I'm going to ask Mr. Attanda to address the issue. So Mohamed Attanda, what are the assets of the network, the main network, to finance collective and sustainable economies for the territories? Thank you. Thank you so much, Madame Ndour. As I mentioned in the presentation of the main network, so the network represents a financing structure that are at the core of solidarity. As an asset, it must be mentioned that the main network is diverse. We have microfinance institutions, we have bank institutions, we also have professional associations, to name it. What are the assets that main has for financing? We have a number of assets in our partner institution. The first potential asset is proximity with populations. So the population, these are not people that can reach out classical banks for fundraising, but these are people that do not have collateral to request for loans and credit from classical financial institutions. So as a potential asset, we have proximity. Second potential asset is the involvement of elected representatives in the opening of some microfinance agencies, like the decentralized financial institutions. On some occasions, when a partner institution want to open an agency at a given site, so they reach out to local actors that are mayors or elected representatives, so they come and support this initiative, so that this may promote and boost this microfinance activity through income generating activities that beneficiaries may get. Another asset is that when we talk about SSE, we talk about solidarity, we talk about collectivity, and this concept, this SSE concept, has been here for many years, but it has been reformulated through SSE. It is reformulated because in our villages, in remote areas, we have what we call tontines, and these tontines were built on confidence of members in the community to get together and develop solidarity funds, put some money, save up some money to support an income generating activity. That's why we have what we call village associations. and they have become now microfinance institutions to support activities of underprivileged and vulnerable groups. So this is some assets I may mention now as bottlenecks. The first obstacle, as I was saying that these vulnerable people, they lack collateral, they have no guarantee, and this is part of the initial obstacles that we may identify. Even if they had collateral, the formalization of this collateral is an issue. We know that in Africa, land is still an issue. Land is a problem, especially for our mothers and women. When you are a woman, after the death of your husband, either the family wants to grab the heritage, get the land, the house, they chase everyone, and usually the family, the husband's family, will get the house. So the land issue is specific, and this is a real obstacle in formalization, because today, I don't know what is the situation in Senegal, so having a land title is a real issue. So we need land title to secure loans from microfinance institutions. And if I have to get back on assets, so one of the assets is digitalization. We know that today with digitalization, vulnerable groups can secure their financing, and the process is very quick. So this is some assets and obstacles I would like to share with you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Attanda. I would like to note the fact that yesterday we heard strong advocacy on the side of the President of the Republic of Senegal and the Mayor of Dakar on this issue of collateral. I've known GMF in other regions, and the motto was, your collateral is your work. Well, so general financialization is that we are more careful to secure transactions, which is understandable. So this is a call we have been hearing since the beginning of the week, and GSEF may take the lead. How do we facilitate provision of financing for SSE? Yes, thank you, Madam. I would like to supplement my brother's comments, and in terms of main asset for our Confederation, first of all, we have a pulling up of working methods. We are 6 countries. We have standardized our processes at the cooperative. This was not easy, but we've managed to do. Asset is the power we give to grassroots populations to decide on the organization of the cooperative and its management, with more empowerment of women, and we delegate management of cooperatives. But the initial amount is 200 francs CFA. Anyone who can save up 200 francs CFA per day, per week, or per month, we collect it. At least we give that person the opportunity to access credit to develop income-generating activities. Today, with digitalization, we can multiply by 3 for some categories of people the capacity to save up and secure credit. We also have population financial education. Financial education, without that, it's very difficult to measure these resources. So these are elements we use in terms of challenges and obstacles. So financial education is key. The issue of collateral. I would like to appeal to GSEF to see if they could work to make sure that at OADA law they may have a provision for particular collateral for SSE, because land title is not adopted at all, because you need to work to have other forms of guarantees of collateral. We know that the government of Senegal is working on that. At GSEF, we need to have this advocacy in order to actually work on collateral. We have observed that grassroots, like democratization at the cooperative level, have made it possible to emerge opinion leaders who have become members of parliaments, ministers, and they contribute to working for dialogue and making social economy at our space. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soglonou. Just wanted to underline Mr. Soglonou's proposal to launch with GSEF a challenge, because this will relate to regulations with OADA to treat the easy flow of the financial resources. It's a call that has been made since this morning in favor of SSE, and I think should be one of the recommendations, one of the steps proposed by the DakarGSEF to move forward on that aspect. Thank you very much. I just wanted to, in line of that, to say one of our responsibilities as facilitators of this forum is to carry recommendations which are realistic and achievable, and that would stem out of the discussions that we will be having in a different session. In your answers, if you could give us recommendations that we could integrate in the declaration that will be made tomorrow, would be great. We have had answers from microfinance institutions network. We had the issue of guarantee. We know that IFD has already made some achievements done at the macro level, and I think it would be interesting to have the French Development Agency's position to the. We're not talking about only we are a development bank. Your mic, sir. Your microphone, sir. Raise your microphone, sir. We can't hear you. We are a commercial bank. We have loans. We have guarantees. Raise your mic, sir. And subsidies for many organizations of the civil society. Raise your mic, sir, please. We can't hear you. Micro Villa.
Des collectivités locales à travers ce qu'on appelle la FICO, le financement des collectivités locales. Un exemple concret, Montreuil, il y a un partenariat avec une collectivité locale ici au Sénégal, au Mali, au Burkina.
Will you ask the person speaking to raise the mic a little bit? We can't hear what he's saying. The mic is too low. Raise it a little bit. Lift it up, please.
Ce programme ensemble. L'État de Côte d'Ivoire ou du Sénégal nous sollicite pour le faire en prêt de 20, 30, 45.
Good.
Nous sommes ici à Dakar et dans la sous-région. Nous lançons un nouveau programme qui s'appelle Choose Africa 2. Je ne fais pas de publicité, que le président Macron a mis en place pour accompagner les économies africaines, les PME, les TPE, les start-up, pour un peu plus de 3 milliards d'euros pour accompagner ces entrepreneurs à impact social, économique et...
Please raise your microphone. We can't hear you. To enable them to have their income-generating activities in order to meet their needs, develop the companies, scale up, and to do that, we have to have in front of us a state that would request for a loan or a commercial bank or a microfinance institution. Could be PAMECAS, Crédit Mutuel du Sénégal, COFITA, who will enable to put that place in that program. We also are trying to do whatever we can in terms of regulation, support procedures of the ecosystem to reinforce and make that economy more sustainable in the territories. And with our expertise France branch, we are providing technical assistance and counsel to organizations and governments, providing them with experts, allowing subsidies in order to harmonize the procedures. Work that Mathieu is doing about OADA is something we could be doing here and see how we can. Thank you very much, Mr. Sarr, for reminding us how bilateral cooperation can bring answers, concrete answers, tangible answers expected by the populations on this the challenge of financing. And we have measured since the beginning of the week the scope and the demographic data which have been mentioned. Mr. Sam, we would like to have the position from the Islamic finance. We all agree that and all the mechanisms which are those of the social and solidarity economy. Can you tell us what the Islamic Development is doing and what can they bring to the sector to see if there are obstacles or constraints? Thank you very much. It's much more easier for me to talk about the French Development Bank. We are part of our financial partners. They have 55 member countries with all the economy sectors. With, as Mr. Sarr has said, we work with the government, we work with guarantees, and we also work with the private sector. Another particularly specificity is the nature of cooperation. Our cooperation is South-South oriented. We talk solidarity values, which can help us to work at a decentralized and local level. And as Madame Ndour said, our specificity is also the use of Islamic finance, which is finance on real economy, which is more tangible. And we have more than 20 years in microfinance and in technical assistance to countries using in Senegal and other countries. And as we said, is the notion of guarantee. Today at BID, we are trying to rethink the whole strategy in giving orientations with financial income transfer. So there are resources made available to our population, and we would like to have partners who would be ready to make something that we call circular economy, and that would be an alternative to what we call guarantee. And a microfinance institution who would provide finance should give them the capacity to have access to the market, and this is the advantage of the Islamic, is not to give them the resource only, but to give them the market. So we become suppliers of finance, but also suppliers of markets for the use or for the resale of the final product. And this comes up into what we call a circular economic, the use and return on investment with the population. We are no longer in an approach where we are using subsistence. We run an approach where we bring them real contribution to the economy. Thank you, Mr. Sarr, to remind us, because sometimes there is a simple thematic of accessibility to information. All along this week, there have been a lot of calls, legitimate, important, from women to see how they can have access to resources. And we realize now that a lot of resources are available, but sometimes it's simply the channel of information for accessibility, which is not known by everyone. And this is the quality of a forum like DakarGSEF2023 to share information on financing also. We are going to listen the Quebec experience of CAP Finance. What are the advantages and in OSF funding, financing, and we know that Canada is one of the pioneers, precursors of SAC. There are maybe exchanges, lessons learned, and obstacles that we could avoid in order. Thank you very much. I don't know, we might be able to share our experience and conceptualization, and which provide some cohesion. So being together, it gives us more weight, more importance. And civil society organization, in the preceding session, there were questions on civil society communication with the government. In our Finance case, when we look at the history of the organizations, there is an active participation of the civil society. For instance, if we have a microcredit network in Quebec, it's because for 30 years ago, this organization at a commune in one district in Montreal said we are able to do something. We are able to stay together and create a fund that meets our expectations. And with the creation of that first organization, it was disseminated, and we have about 20 organizations now. So the civil society is present. Also, the most important COFINA member funds come from the unions. Fondation, one of the largest fund provider, was a workers' fund. Once they decided the regional system does not finance the type of companies that we would like to support, so they decided to create a fund. And with the participation of their members, their contributions or pension, they were able to set in place a fund. And that fund has about 3.1 billion capital. Another one, a similar one, which is about 17 billion capital. So once again, coming from the union. So the civil society participation is important. Last point related to the CSO, the fact of working in groups, being organized as CAFINAS gives us a lot of assets. In Quebec, the government works in collaboration and listens to the social economy because we have the opportunity to be together. Last example, I could have given more, how the government, before setting up programs, communicate or consult CAFINAS, because and this is why there are programs that are in our regions. I cannot complain, but I can say we have a lot of programs which are implemented based on our needs. And one last institution that appeared recently, the Canadian government have put in place a social innovation program, but in Quebec, CAP Finance, where we found ourselves, we were able to request to the Quebec government to be responsible for those funds for Quebec. And CAP Finance is responsible for the Social Innovation Fund for Quebec, and the operations were given to one of our members, which is so being together in a nutshell, participating And social CSO participation creates winning conditions in the collaboration, and this is really a major asset.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Villegas.
Thank you, Villegas. You have recalled the systemic approach that you have in your country, which has been conclusive and which, in my opinion, represent or may represent a cooperation basis as such. And it's not a model reproduction, but there are lessons to draw from your system, and they may be valid elsewhere. So, third set of questions and the last one. You all coming from the private sector, except for the French Development Agency. So you have solutions and responses to a considerable demand expressed by the population. And at your level, what is your relationship with the public authority creating multiplier efforts, lever efforts? How do you catalyze private public energies in order to address SSE challenges? If you have worked and reflected on this issue, so this sharing of your thoughts would be appreciated. Mr. Soglonou, when he smiles, he got things to share. Over to you. So let's recall that we have time constraints. So 2 minutes for each panel members. We'll have time to proceed because we are in a forum. Thank you. I would like to say that at the local level, for elected representatives that are here, cooperatives and microfinance institutions, they are social and financial partners in that they contribute significantly to mitigate shocks by contributing to paying taxes at the local level and through the economic activity carried out by population. What we're asking you to better do, the work is to encourage local consumption. So it is to finance businesses. So we need to encourage local consumption. And encouraging local consumption, we need to work to put in place necessary infrastructure for local production, energy, electricity, water, roads, to facilitate the marketing of the product. We are ready to continue financing and even increase our financing share. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Soglonou. Attanda, Mohamed. Thank you. Today, when we talk about financing, I think there is an important component that we need to factor in. And this is everything relating to ecological and social transition, which is an important factor, because what we're financing, we need to make sure that activities they exercise actually comply with environmental practices. PPP is something critical, and we need to highlight that. On the main network, we have a strong partnership with the French Development Agency from Paris. We also have we benefit from grants from the European Investment Fund and other partners. So PPP is key. We also need to take into account activities that are mindful of practices, ecological practices, environmental friendly activities, and then this, so end beneficiaries should actually make good use of those products. Thank you. Thank you, Attanda. Mr. Sarr, since your initial comments, what can you say? Is it true that you have already shared? So, yes. For you, you talked about public cooperation, the relationship with the private sector actually made it possible to densify or create what we call impact, tangible impact or visible impact. So via cooperation or the transformation of citizen tax, actually via a ripple effect, this has a development effect. So to avoid repeating, we're having 12 billion euro and 50% actually goes to Africa. These are contracts we signed with states in the form of loans and guarantees, grants, and this contributes to attaining SDGs for the states by financing energy, infrastructure, clean energy, sustainable infrastructure, or health, education, vocational training, in addition to activities for the financing of classical economy like regional train or so we do it with activities that have the capacity for indebtedness. So we do it with commercial banks, we do it with public and local development banks, but also microfinance institutions. And to those institutions, we grant them credit lines so that they can finance economy and allow for social and economic development for which states aspire. So today that you know that AFD is allocating 0.5% of its GDP to development. Today we have the Presidential Council on Development in Paris. In a month we'll have the Interministerial Committee for International Cooperation and Development, and this will project France's commitment from 2020 to 2024 in terms of financing, in terms of support to states, in terms of support to the private sector, to civil justice. You know that within AFD we have the Civil Society Organization Initiative put in place by Kushner, and this allows us to support more than 100 million euro, and we support civil society organization initiative. All these activities, all these resources actually allows to contribute to economic and social development program. For the case of Senegal, with Senegal's emerging plan, we support the government of Senegal upon its request, either directly or through state structures. We do the same in Senegal as part of the engagement contract. I can give other examples, Morocco, etc. So today, as I said, let me repeat it, we are a public development bank that finances income generating activities of states that come to see us so that we can support their initiative. The civil society, the private sector, and professional organizations also are concerned. Thank you, Mr. Sarr. I think these are information that are not necessarily known to participants. That is the reason why promoting or disseminating such information will actually allow for more understanding, so that participants can better understand all behind this kind of financing. Mr. Sam? let me say we have 55 agencies in Africa. In each country we have an agency director with a team working with authorities, the private sector, the civil society, the French International Cooperation Agency, which is well established here. We are in Dakar and people know it very well. The private sector knows it, the civil society as well, microfinance institutions, and we are securing loans. Mr. Sam Bank has states as preferred partners. They are our preferred partners, our privileged partners. We say state at the larger sense of the word. We support collectivity through development programs and projects. But here I'm going to rather focus on the interaction we may have with the private sector via the states. So the idea is to put in place or use the local private sector as development partners. And in this regard, one of our favorite tools is the development of line of financing. For Senegal, we have over $100 million, and this is shared between we have $50 million, we have the private sector, banks, and financial institutions, $30 million. Our contribution to the collectivity level is done in the form of line of financing, and the main objective is to create an economic value chain. Populations are not just loaners of the classical meaning, but population should be actors of a value chain. So we are rather focusing on economic value chain. That's why I was talking about economic inclusion instead of just financial inclusion. So what is specific about Islamic finance is real economy, resources, but we are supporting populations to emerge from one category to another, to leave one category to another one. This is in a nutshell what I can add in terms of contribution at the level of the collectivity. In the same vein, thank you. So still to pick up on what my colleague said, let me go further. So what I hear, it is as if social economy is just an economy of the poor. Social economy should be a development economy. In this regard, we need to you talked about areas, and this is the major elements which we need to get engaged, because we are not dependent of any intermediary. I see many projects elsewhere in America, and we start with a concern that is to discover the whole value chain, and that way all the community will not be left behind, and there won't be any intermediary. And this is a major point to actually cut the value chain. Now, not everything is perfect in Quebec. There are some needs for population that are not met. For example, at migrating entrepreneurs. So on these people, they are not just borrowers, they should be people dealing with complex sectors. So one of the funds that we have supported is the Fund for Entrepreneurship, and this covered the whole value chain. This is a development element, this is a way of working for economic growth and social growth for people. Last element, what could we do? Today and yesterday we've been talking about Quebec as a successful example. But if we want to know more about Quebec and the funds we are working on, so be member of Guinness. That is the organization that Madame Ndour is chairing. I was saying that we have 3 members that are present, that are member of the institution. I would like to know, if you want to know Quebec and this ecosystem, please be member of Guinness, and you'll know you know that we can collaborate and share this knowledge. Maybe the fourth member of Kafina will be member of Guinea. So on this, I say thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to all our panel members for these answers. I hope it was clear. Maybe we'll take a few questions, because it would be a pity not to interact with people that are present here. I suggest we open a small list, 3 or 4 participants, but just not more than 1 minute, please. Just to be brief. I think there is a gentleman from the delegation for rapid entrepreneurship who wants to bring some input. He's in the audience. If he's, he can take the floor.
Alors, première question.
First question. Yes, gentlemen. Brief. Be brief. Thank you. I think the panel is male dominant, so we'll take women in priority. Attanda is my name. I worked in microfinance 10 years down the line. I'm in digitalization, microfirst. The first question that I would like to ask, and this is a question that is brought up, what is the nuance, the difference between microfinance and social and solidarity economy for the whole panel? Second question. We have seen that you have done a lot on digitalization. A few years ago, I left this sector for another one because it was the digital age. But unfortunately or fortunately, I was there in 10 years and I came back. I noted at that time that we had a lot of challenges in digitalization. When Maine and CIF did speak, I see a lot of progress, but at institutional level. So how about the grassroots level? Because they are not crazy, they do understand, and we can digitalize them. So where do you stand now? This is for Rachid. This is directed to Rachid from the Islamic Bank. You did talk about circular economy and value chain and market openness, and this is an issue that microfinance is facing. So how are you going to proceed? Do you have means not coercing so that states or local collectivities can implement that? Can you push beneficiaries to access the market?
Merci, Madame. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Cherno, Director of the AFD Morocco. Everything you have said, panel members, actually have to do with the social categories like its own guarantee. And my question is, for the most destitute class, the participation in this forum be not vain without impact. So today, what are the measures you're going to take from here to make sure that from now on in your negotiations with states, the place of social and solidarity equipment be more visible and more significant? And this should be one of the conditions so that states have access to this funding, because my understanding is that you work more with states than with SSE players. So today, what is the impact? What is the value addition of this forum? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I am Alimata Tahiru. I am from the Women Social Movement, and I think these issues of funding is a recurring one in the framework of this SAC. I am very happy to participate in panel and to realize that we are in front of these great people from the finance whom we only see behind the pain and whom the SAC is the concern. My concern is the typology of this new vision that we're talking about, the new guarantee system, because this is the problem in order to have fundings for SAC. I have also noted one aspect. To have access to the fundings, we have to be organized in associations, in groups. It's the number of the big numbers. The bigger the numbers and the more credible you will be before the state, before the government. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam. We should start answering those first questions. Mathieu, I see that you would like to say something. Where's the mic? Okay, go ahead. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Marango. I am a member of a foundation called My Country, My Money, and I'm a journalist. I wanted to ask one question to Mr. Sarr. With the 50% that you give to the African continent, how do you proceed to offer guarantee to the other continents? We did not understand your question right. Would you please reformulate it? I wanted to tell Mr. Sarr, you said in your that you have 50% financing for Africa, and for the remaining 50%, how do you guarantee fundings to the other continents? Good morning, I'm Virginia. I work with the MasterCard Foundation. We are a key stakeholder for the development, and we share the same vision as you do, because the objective is to make sure the youth can get jobs and contribute and have access to fundings. My question is, how do you envisage to set up partnership with development actors like us to have a more relevant and social financing, because it could be a combination of a gift, of loans, etc. How can we reconcile this to be part of the family photograph? Thank you, Madam, for your question and suggestion. And not a demand. Your demand is also welcome here. Bonjour, I am Adnan.
Jerusalem, Palestine. I represent a CAD microfinance company. My question is that microfinance companies are getting their loans from commercial banks, and the cost of money is becoming to be increasing, so that cost of loans given to marginalized is also becoming to be increased. So instead of helping those marginalized people to establish their projects, their initiative, it's becoming to be burdened because of the high cost of loans. Is there any suggestion of establishing solidarity funds to give microfinance companies soft loans so that in return they can give it to their beneficiaries? Thank you.
Merci. On va encore prendre une question en bas et puis je pense que là on va...
One last question and start the answers. the round of answers. Can I translate, Adnan? Do you want me to translate? It is translated. It is translated. It was already translated. Faire accéder. Yeah, it's clear. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Awaso Maron. I am a focal point, to participate in the creation of SFDs, the mutuals are cooperatives, tend to be bankerized, but they stay a cooperative, and the financing, now building the ecosystem of the SAC ecosystem, appropriate financial services, but the stakeholders also need to be supported. This is the contribution that I wanted to raise in relation to the presentation made by these different experts. Thank you, Madam. We have a series of questions, important questions, in particular the issue on, I wanted to start from there to clarify the topic between, I wanted to ask you the question. Thank you very much, Dominique. The microfinance to serve SAC fundamentally, because microfinance contributes in taking into account the needs at the local level for the people who do not have access to the classical banking systems and financial institutions. Microfinance serves SAC. It's the articulation that people should understand. Can I continue? I think Madam also was interested in the digital technology. This digital technology is at the basis. You have the process is all the institutions and the product is for the population. We have managed to have digital technology for the populations, for them who did not have access to formal education to understand how to manage their budget, how to manage their credit. So the concern is taken into account, but it's huge work to do in partnership. And we would like to thank our colleague from the MasterCard Foundation, who is the Minister Amadou, and our colleague from BEAD. The guarantee issue, for years we thought that to get the credit we need to have the guarantee. If you go to request for a loan, if you do not have guarantee, you will not get that loan. So what we are doing is to finance the economy. The guarantee is the last recourse. In the inclusion, social inclusion sector, the first guarantee is the quality of the entrepreneur. The second guarantee is solidarity. If the clients are organized in solidarity groups to get profit of the resources, when the amount of the credit becomes high, this is where we call on classical guarantee. And we said that those classical guarantee are usually not adapted to our sector. We cannot ask people who has got cattle to give a land tenure. Our code only recognizes land tenure as a property, as a guarantee. So we have to review the legislation and the regulation on the guarantee so that the people can accept a bicycle, anything that the person has which has value to serve as a guarantee and have access to credit. I will not keep the floor. Some other people would like certainly to say something about it. Mr. Sarr, I know you are in a hurry. Maybe you wanted to bring an answer to the question that you were asked. 3 points. The first point is about digital technology, digitalization. I think to provide digitalization for credit availability, and it helps bring transparency, efficiency, and the speed of delivery. We have the case in Morocco where the informal sector is taken into account by all the actors working on SEC. Senegal has talked about it. Crowds, important parts of our economy have left the informal sector, be it a certain amount of mechanization, formalization, access to commerce registry, NINEA, and integrated decentralized system in relation with the FED. So the product that we are setting in place are not only meant for the institutional actors and to the formal actors, but the informal sector represents 90% of the economic activities in sub-Saharan Africa. Are interested in our with MasterCard Foundation. We sent a mail to Serge for a workshop that we are organizing on Monday to work on Young Africa work, and you know what I'm talking about. So I will come over to get your money, and with Mathieu and my friend from BIT. A month ago, we were at BIT to create a partnership with AFD in order to carry out triangulation over the African continent with Mali. We have diplomatic, a little bit difficult in Mali. I don't want to say something, but there are civil society organizations like GRET on the Sahel, who are the most important actors of the social and solidarity economy to support the Malian population that need it, but also decentralized cooperation between Malian, French region and French cities in Mali and in France. Thank you, Mr. Sarr. Thank you very much, Mr. Sarr. I know you have to go for your availability to have changed your planning this morning in order to be with us. Thank you very much. The difference between microfinance and ESS is another labeling. We talk about responsible microfinance, we talk about ethical microfinance, we talk about solidarity microfinance. So whoever talks about ESS talks about microfinance. It's a form of an advanced form of the terminology microfinance. So the topic microfinance, many people don't use it. We talk about inclusive, decentralized, ethical finance, responsible finance. These are the new terminology. They are synonyms of what we call microfinance. As for the digital technology and digitalization, according to the guarantee, I think the issue raised by our friend from Morocco is to know how about people who do not have any guarantee? The answer is very simple. I think in different countries today, there are government programs which are made available to the populations to finance to zero rate, interest rate. And if they are not government programs, you could have gone to find resources elsewhere, but you have to pay for the cost of the resource. It won't be a zero interest rate. In microfinance, we have to make the difference between the poor. But what poor are you talking about? Is it 1P, 2P, or 3P? So microfinance is not a panacea. It's not there to give the answer to everything, but it's a tool, development tool, which is made available to help the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, and for the people who do not have any guarantee, there are government programs and there are even some donors who can offer loans for 0 interest rate. And this could maybe, but there are limits to the amount that you can get from those institutions. But I think that in the GVEX savings, you do not have any guarantee to give, but the caution, the guarantee is a solidarity guarantee. And it's the group that could help to do those financing. In terms of partnership, the answers have already been given. The question raised by Mr. Faraman, the increase observed on the access to the available resources in the commercial financial system, refinancing, and which affects the products that the beneficiaries are users, but which they have to pay at a higher cost. So how can we manage this question? The issue of refinancing depends on what's the rate, interest rate that you're getting the resource. This will determine the output rate for which you are going to make the resources available. And also we'll talk about financial resources. The resources are relevant. You cannot take resources for rice to finance long-term activities. So the resources may not be relevant to the context that you intend to use them and based on your needs. And if you're going for resource, you have to negotiate so that the output rate will not correspond. Mr. Sam, what are the answers that you would like to bring? Maybe conclude with the intervention from the colleague on the output rate is to have multilateral development partners, the objective being to be profitable. Economically speaking, if you put in place fundings, we want to make sure that what is considered as a refinancing for this institution is affordable, because we have the objective of the government, the objective of the collectivities, which is economic, social, and solidarity development. So if you have financial lines, this alternative to the classical refinancing mechanism. The other point on the notion of guarantee, and I will answer to that question, how do we have coercion measures or means to control that circular economy? When you have in front of you collectivities which are interested in the economic development of the member countries, of those population, the main objective is not the financial part, but we go towards the creation of some independence, and at BID we have a mechanism called empowerment. We have economic empowerment department with the objective of the population. So it's a circular economy that we promote. And we try to have technical partners, IMF, International Monetary Fund, French development, and to know the profile of the population, the profile of the activity in which those populations are working. If I take the most risky one, agriculture. How do you finance agriculture? How do we finance populations who do not have any guarantee at all, but who have to use land and have subsistence activities? What we do in terms of, as a financial partner, is bring the infrastructure. We put in place the necessary infrastructures. We give them financial channels, but those market finance institutions are not offer finances, but they offer services, saying what is the access to the input. Instead of giving them the financial resources, we give them access to the input, you know, and the other element is either a market for them to sell the final product in that partnership. And we try to facilitate the access to the market so the production that will come out of their activity can be sold. So we have a development project. We choose the project that who becomes a smart partner in the inclusive economy, put them in relation with stakeholders at the entry point of the value chain, and we guarantee that at the end of the value chain, we find ourselves in a win-win situation. This is what I can say and conclude in the framework of the forum. The most important is not the guarantee, but the regulation, because today those financial mutual institutions have got constraints by the regulator in terms of exposure to the risk. So discussion should be carried out with the regulator to see what type of guarantee or compliance by sector or by economic layers of the community. Depending on the portfolio, the regulator should not be too demanding in terms of exposure to risk. Yes, my personal experience in North America, but what has been said is in the same line. Is it an accessibility issue or viability? When we talk about the interest rate and guarantee, it depends on the risk. To fill the gap or meet the needs on our part, we sort it out differently. First of all, there is an ecosystem that should come in and in the companies to make sure that the companies are organized in a way that the risk is reduced, is mitigated, and this is the first. Also, how in a SSE company we are partners of this social economy. For instance, say I have a government program in the framework of this management. We have decided to set a priority or before the SSE company requests for fundings for the company. We have to for that company offering that services. This is how we set up.
This is our reality. It's not everybody's reality, and we were talking about regulation. Out of the 9, we have 4 members that are not regulated, so we may just adopt to avoid this kind of questions. A question on guarantee. When we analyze project, we take a look first of all on the project viability. So guarantee will be considered last because what we're interested in is the project structure and viability. Thank you very much, Mr. Villegas. Maybe I'm a facilitator, but I just want to bring a brief input with regard to the question on the difference between microfinance and SSE. At social finance, we have a number of mechanisms which allow us to finance SSE actors. And among these mechanisms, we have microfinance institutions that address some populations among actors. We also have other structures that may be banking structures, social banks. We have foundations, etc. So microfinance is part and parcel of the SSE ecosystem. And I think in our countries, this is one of the most popular tools to address SSE actors, because these actors are at a level that we want to scale up today. the answer to the financing of SSE should not be just a micro answer. That's why we wanted in this panel to have players from microfinance sector, because Mr. Attanda and Mr. Soglonou are representing a network of microfinance institutions. They came together to have some intervention strength. We also have invited people that were at a macro level, and they are working with central states and territorial collectivities. There was a question on concrete examples, and I think we did not address this question. Concrete examples with regard to, I think it was about the mechanism put in place between the government and structures. We cannot answer that here, because when we constructed the agenda around this topic, we had a number of workshops, and in these workshops you're going to exchange with people that will come and talk about initiatives. We have a workshop in financial and social inclusion in territories. We have one on financial digitalization. We have another workshop on the financing of agriculture and ecological and social transition. But on the crucial point of regulation, this is a legal and regulatory framework, because this is a point which sometimes prevent SSE actors to actually design services that meet population's needs. So I please invite you to conclude. So please go to the workshops. We have there's workshops today or tomorrow. So you have a series of workshops, and you'll have the opportunity to better interact with those facilitators, and they have come to share their experience and at the same time learn from you. It's a give and get. Thank you all. Now is the time to thank you for your active participation. So this topic of financing is very interesting, and it's going to be the situation for so long now. We believe that GSEF Dakar 2023 will be a step to pull together all this reflection for a permanent dialogue on the financing between collectivities, financial institutions, specialists, and thanks to the forum, they can listen to fundamental questions brought up by users and promoters. We have so many beautiful initiatives around SSE. So to wind up, thank you, Mrs. Ndour, for articulating all this for so long. I said at the beginning that we need to thank her. There's a round of applause. Thank you. And I would finally like to thank our panel members for their availability. As we have been saying, these people have busy schedule, but they actually traveled to Dakar to take part in this panel, and I wish to thank them for that. I know that we can continue to bank on these people so that we can think about this issue of financing, which is a concern for us. I thank you.
À notre modérateur aussi, Monsieur Dominique.
Thank you, our moderator. Thank you so much.